All right guys, Makeshift here. Wasteland Weekend is coming up really soon, really fast. I'm recording this in 2024. It's literally in less than 2 weeks. So this is your last chance. If you're watching this in the future, you're probably getting ready over the summer and giving yourself a little bit more time than I did making this video. Anyway, it's hot out here, so let's get to it. I've got your 20 things you need to know about Wasteland Weekend. Let's go. All right, first off, number one, what is Wasteland Weekend? Well, Wasteland Weekend is a 4-day immersive post-apocalyptic festival based in the Mad Max universe, but open to other influences from like Fallout, the video games, the Book of Eli, and so many more properties. The event is split into general camping and then a theme zone where all of the music, cars, tribe camps, and events are right out of the apocalypse. If you're fans of cons, other festivals, cosplay, LARP, or just want to feel like you're stepping onto a movie set or right into a video game, then Wasteland Weekend is for you. All right, number two, who's going to be there? Wasteland Weekend is 18 plus, so adults only, no kids, no dogs, no cats, no pets allowed, except for service animals. And when I say service animals, I mean service animals. I don't mean companion animals. Those don't count in this case. Sorry, guys. And all the way up to 90 plus. So we've got some wonderful old timers out there that also come out and enjoy the festivities. It's really open to anyone. Now check it out. We have a broad spectrum of participants, from just regular old Mad Max fans, which is obviously the heart and soul of the event, to general post-apocalypse fans. We've got preppers, we've got movie crew writers, black thumbs, that's mechanics, if you haven't been paying attention, costume designers, and fans of other festivals like Renaissance Fair, SEA, Burning Man. People can make adaptations and join in the fun as well. But the point is, they all come together to celebrate the post-apocalypse. And I'm gonna have a little bit more on that later when we get into more theme stuff. All right, number three, costumes. First off, costumes are mandatory. Everyone has to be in a costume. The only people you'll see out there that are not in costume are gonna be local law enforcement, firefighters, EMTs, even the event staff, even though they are in like uniformed t-shirts to make sure that they stand out, they will still have the flair of the post-apocalypse so that they are findable, but they're not going to be spoiling the atmosphere. They'll kind of like fit into the background most of the time. Let's talk about Wasteland Basic. So if it's your first time costuming for an event like this, it can be a little bit daunting, but we have what's called Wasteland Basic, which is just take up some old raggedy clothes. Specifically, Wasteland Basic is like cargo shorts and a ratty old t-shirt. Obviously, we don't want a lot of loud logos and that kind of thing, but what you can do, I mean, this is off the shelf, and all I did was put some bleach on it, hit it with some spray paint, and I haven't even done a whole lot of distressing to it yet, but it already starts to blend in to the background at Wasteland Weekend. So you can often find stuff off the shelf or just your ratty old clothes, or go to like thrift stores and just get some older clothes, tear them up, get some abrasion. People literally will say drag them on the ground behind your car, or just pick up a rock and just start rubbing at it. Just literally just do whatever you can to distress things. And that's Wasteland Basic. You don't have to go nuts. And when you see people that have great costumes out there, it takes a while to put those things together. So a lot of the people that have these amazing costumes have been doing the event for 10 years already. So they've got a little leg up on you. So don't compare yourself to the best costumes. Just make sure you're doing what you can to fit in and not spoil everyone else's atmosphere. A few rules that you need to know: no zombies, no aliens, no mutants. Animal ears are highly discouraged. If it's part of your larger costume, if you've got a story to tell, if you are a huntress that lives in the woods and your post-apocalyptic god is, some kind of a bear or a fox, and you want to incorporate ears into your costume and make it look like a part of it, you can do that. But if you're just going to pop on some strap-on ears that you got off of Amazon.com, it's not going to fly. Also, no tails. And this is no tails at all. I mean, no tails at all. Don't bring the tails. We don't want the tails. I know the tails are fun and they're fuzzy and they're cute, but we're not going for fuzzy and cute. So don't bring that. And you can look at wastelandweekend.com for more costume tips and hints and rules, and you'll see that no tails are allowed. Also, fantasy stuff, just leave it at home. We don't need the elves and the orcs and all that kind of stuff. This is the post-apocalypse, so let it be the post-apocalypse. If you're really into something, that's okay. But when you come to Wasteland, jump into the culture of Wasteland. Okay, also along with that, no pop culture references. Just because, Fallout, the video game, might have had like a funky clown costume that added, 5 to your dexterity or something like that. Don't do it. when people have done pop culture references, it's very rare that it actually works. Most of the time it just looks like you're goofing around and not being serious about our unserious post-apocalyptic party in the desert. Anyway, yeah, avoid the pop culture references. Try to do something original. Obviously, cosplay from like the Mad Max universe or some of the Fallout characters that would work in the Mad Max universe is totally fine and totally encouraged, but be very careful about trying to do like, oh man, like post-apocalypse Janis Joplin, or like definitely don't do any political characters in the post-apocalypse. That's just not going to go well. More on that later too. Also, important to remember that some costumes out there will look really intimidating. Like people will look totally scary. You might not want to talk to them. I've been guilty of this, even as someone who carries a camera and wants to go meet new people and talk to them. I've been guilty of like seeing a costume that just looks honestly intimidating and not talking to that person simply because they looked too scary or rad or cool. But honestly, Wastelanders are some of the sweetest, nerdiest, most amazing bunch, and you really can't go wrong just saying hi. And lastly, while some Wastelanders will choose to show a little extra skin, it is an adults only event after all. Nude is not a costume. Walking around in an open desert naked obviously is not a good way to survive the post-apocalypse. So while you are welcome to show some extra skin, just be mindful and demure about what you're wearing. That's right, it's 2024. I had to throw that in there. Just make sure that if you are showing skin, you're telling a story with it. You know. Don't just run around naked. And definitely don't run around naked and clean. That's not allowed. Naked and dirty is definitely better. But also, your lower bits probably just should stay hidden away. So even if you're going topless, just don't show your lower bits. It's just unnecessary. Not to be prudish, but whatever. Let's start to talk about actually getting to the event and what to do when you get there. So let's talk about arrival and the line. This is number 4. You got to approach Wasteland from Rosewood to the west of the event. So come up California City Boulevard or south from California City, depending on which direction you're coming, and head east toward Wasteland Weekend. There is another road, and Google might suggest that you take Clay Mine. Don't. They reserve Clay Mine so that there's no lines and no traffic for emergency vehicles and staff that need to get in and out really quick. So make sure you're taking Rosewood from the west, California City Boulevard. All right, on the night before the event starts, Tuesday night, there will be some Wastelanders hanging out in California City. So if you get up there early and you want to do a little bit of a tailgate, just drive through California City and you'll probably see some Wastelanders hanging out. I would guess all my caps that they would love to have you stop in and say hi and shoot the shit and just get excited with them. All that happens before the lineup starts at 12:01 a.m. And we say 12:01 a.m. because people got very confused about 12 a.m. because of the whole AM PM thing. Anyway, you may line up starting at 12:01. So what you'll see is at, 11:55, a bunch of lights pop up and they make that 5-minute trek to the front line right at 12:01. If you show up even a minute before 12:01, they're gonna turn you back around and you'll be back at the end of the line. So make sure that you are waiting, and by the time you hit the end of the line, it's 12:01. And if you're the first one, which obviously this goes to one person every year, don't be early, because you got a bunch of people behind you that would really like to be in front of you, and they'll get the chance if you're too early. So yeah, you can park. The first 50 or 100 cars will fit on Wasteland property off of Rosewood. If you don't make that first bunch of cars, you will be parking on Rosewood. So just make sure you park all the way to the side so the traffic can get by. That is still a public street, and the locals may need to drive on it. Although you'll notice Rosewood is 2 lanes. There's a north and a south lane, so just make sure you use the south lane when you are lining up. Now, the event officially opens at 7 a.m., so do the math. If you show up at 12 and the event opens at 7, you're sleeping in your car and not a full night. So a couple things to think about. You don't need to be in costume to enter the event, which is very convenient. You can just show up in your street clothes. You can go set up your camp and then get changed before the event starts, or at least before you head into the theme zone. You need to have your IDs and your tickets ready. And I strongly suggest you print your tickets, because the data signal for your cell phones is just crap out there. Also, more on that later. There's a lot of more on that laters, but just bear with me. So you may want to consider bringing having your pillow up in the car with you, maybe even a blanket. It does get cold at night, but a lot of people do hang out for at least a couple hours after midnight, just shooting the shit in the line, which is really fun. Real quick, a note on early entry. Some tribes do get early entry, and of course a lot of the build crew does. So when you're lining up, you'll see that, yes, there are a lot of camps already set up. That is mostly the tribes and build crew. And if you want to get early entry for your tribe, just make sure you are an official tribe signed up for next year or whenever this happens to be. And if your build requires it, you may be allowed early entry to make sure that you have time. This does not go for anyone's like everyday camp. If you're just attending the festival and not providing a tribe and a service, you're probably not going to get early entry. So just so you know. Finally, don't bring a few things. Don't bring firearms, real weapons, live ammo, fireworks, illicit drugs, lasers, loud sound systems. There's no rogue sound systems allowed, so you can't just have your radio pumping whatever you want. And real quick on that, you can have a radio in your camp. I would suggest listening to Wasteland Radio, 88.3 FM, but if you do want to play music in your camp, you need to keep it at a volume that it does not get outside of your camp, all right? Also, no drones allowed. You'll probably see me flying a drone. I have very special permission from not only the event, but also Edwards Air Force Base, because we are in their airspace. So don't bring your drones. If you bring it, there's a really good chance you're gonna get kicked out if you put it in the air. Also, flamethrowers of any kind, don't bring them. They're not gonna be allowed. Now, there is a fire spinning location called Hades in the theme zone. It's right on the map, and you are welcome to go there during their free spin hours. There will be someone there watching things. You should probably still bring your own fire safety person, but yeah, you are welcome to spin fire as long as you do it in Hades, nowhere else unless you're part of the official entertainment. All right, let's talk about number 5, where to camp. All right, so you made this long road trip, you waited in line, you handed your tickets, and now you see Wasteland City right in front of you, and you're driving up at your 5 miles per hour, no more. If you're picking up dust, you're going too fast. And basically, if you are in the theme zone, you're probably already gonna have a placement. But outside the theme zone is all open camping. For most of you, if you're arriving on Wednesday during the official event, you are going to be in general camping, and for the most part, you can just find a spot wherever you like. A few things to know about that. There's no land grabbing, so you can't just rope off a bunch of area and just be like, this is our courtyard, we're gonna save all this space. You can't do that. You also cannot save a bunch of space for tribe members that are still in line or coming later. So no land grabbing. Of course, if you're saving just a little bit of space, just talk to your neighbors as they show up and just be like, hey, look, we got some people coming. Could we save this amount of space? But absolutely, if you're trying to like rope off a whole section, we just don't have enough space for everybody to be as close to the event as they want. There's plenty of space when you get further away, but if you're gonna be up close, just expect things to be a little tight, and be very gracious when people move in next to you. And if you're moving in between a couple other tribes, just talk to them and see what their camp looks like, and overall just be friendly and be courteous. And what else? I guess that's it. Yeah, find your spots. You'll be fine.
All right, so when I started editing this, I realized I skipped an entire page, so don't mind me as I'm in the back of my car in an alley in Los Angeles. All right, let's talk about number 6, camp stuff, and a few ideas for keeping your camp from flying away in the wind. First off, lag screws are kind of the Wastelander go-to for sticking things in the dirt. Most like camp pins or spikes or just like straight nails, they just don't quite work as well. And the longest lag screws you can get, I would say minimum 12 inches. If you can get 18 or 20 plus inch lag screws, I'm not kidding. Big boys, they will come in so handy, and you can just use an impact wrench to put them in the dirt and get them back out. But they have a way of sticking in the dirt better than any kind of pins or spikes that you can find for your camps. Easy ups, the kind I'm talking about, like shade structures that fold in for easy compacting, are not great. I would say maybe like 50% of them fail every year. And if there's a major windstorm of any kind, they tend to fly away, get damaged, break, especially those cheap $100 ones that you can get at Walmart. They just don't have the support structure. So they're going to fail. There are some very professional easy ups that seem to do a bit better. The kind that like vendors will buy, and I'm talking multiple hundreds of dollars, and they should weigh too much for one person to pick up by themselves a lot of the time. Those can be a little bit better, but the fact is when you put a giant sail on top of a bunch of like cheap construction, like an easy up, it's just a recipe for disaster, which is also a good Wasteland song for like CCB. CCB is famous for like being a food tribe. They like to cook, and they like to feed their friends, and good times. A lot of tribes will, of course, stake things down with lag screws, a lot of rope, and what am I trying to say? Ratchet straps. So those are all good. Just make sure you're using some that people can see, especially if you're using some rope. You know, like we tried to use, say, camouflage colored rope and like green and black colored paracord, which are great because they are disguised, but at night they are too disguised and you end up tripping on them. So one thing you can do is either flag your ropes with some brightly colored string, which can also look very nicely in theme, or you can use little like solar lamps to mark where they pin to the ground so that people know, hey, here's the path, don't walk in the way. All right, something to think about. And lastly, for your camp, make sure you're securing your stuff. Keep valuables in a locked camper or car. Try not to store them in your tents, but if you do, make sure they're covered so people can't see them. Just be smart about your more valuable things. Like I said, it's not great when people go around stealing things, but just like any event in the world, it's better to be cautious and not lose your things. All right, let's skip over to number 7, getting around the event. So first off, the event is about a half mile by a quarter mile, which means it's totally walkable. You can walk the whole thing. I would say you can do a full loop in about 20 minutes if you are just straight walking. Of course, it's never gonna be that quick. You're gonna see some cool stuff. You're gonna wanna stop and talk to people. You're gonna see a show and be like, I'll stick around here for a little bit. But ultimately, yeah, you can do the whole loop in about 20, 25 minutes tops, because I don't think it'll even take that long. So if you are gonna be walking, don't worry, you'll be just fine. That doesn't mean if you're camped out in the boonies, out in Silent Death, that you're gonna have an easy time going from there to the main stage and back all day. So you'll wanna have a backpack, bring a lot of extra water with you, bring everything you need. Just think about carrying things around with you, and I don't know, it's a judgment call, I guess. Some people will want to carry more things, others will want to go back to camp more often. But also that's something to think about when you're camping. Obviously, the closer you are to the main stage, the more noise you're going to have, especially late at night. So if you're trying to go to bed by like 9, 10, 11, which I would suggest not, you're going to want to be further away from everything so that you don't get disrupted by all the loud noise. And Wasteland is doing a wonderful thing lately, which is after the last band goes on, they actually flip the sound system around so that the late night DJs are actually sending their music out into the desert rather than into Tent City and the city. And here comes my first interruption. What a piece of garbage this guy is. Oh man, he stinks. Check it out. All right, so let's talk about getting around by vehicles. First off, your personal vehicle is allowed. By the way, there's no camping pass or RV pass. You don't need special rights to bring an art car. You can just bring it, which is totally fine. Personal vehicles should be parked unless you're making a run into town or leaving the event for some reason. You should not be driving those around during the event. They are absolutely never allowed in the city. So don't even think about it, because you'll be spoiling our atmospheres. But yeah, you can park your car. You can actually car camp if you want. You don't have to put your car in any kind of special parking area. Although there is event parking if you wanted to save some space. There's plenty of parking. If you're coming in from the main entry booth, you'll see that all of Wasteland is to your left as you drive south, and then there will be open parking that you'll see. So once you get things unloaded and situated, you can go bring your car over there. Now, art cars, if you look post-apocalyptic, and I'm not talking about any art car, it has to be post-apocalyptic, and it can't just be like, I have my car and it looks really dirty now, so it's obviously a Wasteland vehicle. Not true. You have to put in some effort for it to be an art car. You can drive anywhere, and you don't require special permits again. your vehicle does not have to be registered while you're on the site. So if you have like a mini bike or a motorcycle that is not registered but is arted, you can bring that with you. Obviously, I would still suggest you being insured in case any accidents occur, but I don't think you have to. Of course, with all vehicles, there's a 5 mile an hour speed limit. That means if you're picking up any dust at all, you are going too fast. And of course, no vehicle may drive at night in the city. So once the sun goes down, they'll block off the main gates. You're not allowed to drive in there anymore just because there's too much foot traffic and lots going on, and of course, drinks being had. Now, if you don't have your own vehicle and you still don't want to walk, you can hitchhike. It's actually pretty cool. So if you see a Wasteland vehicle coming on by, and again, just like with the bars not having to serve everybody, we'll get to that later, but they don't have to pick you up, but you can always just stick out a thumb, and more often than not, you'll find that the Wastelanders will stop, pick you up. If they've got room and can safely add another person, they might ask you to drop in. Some people just like to cruise in their cars. That's their thing. So they'll be more than happy to pick you up, like Atomic Annie from Shepherd. That's his thing. He just loves to drive around, show off Atomic Annie. He's got tons of space in the vehicle. I think it can fit 5 in the main cab. Plus, there's lots more space. So he'll just pick people up all day long, just doing loops, which is pretty fun. And then there is, a few years ago, Wasteland introduced the Mojave Express, which was an official busing route. I mean, there's not necessarily buses, but a bunch of Wasteland vehicles signed up to become more or less like official taxis. I don't know how official or unofficial the Mojave Express is these days. I don't see a whole lot of push for it, but Wastelanders have taken it on to keep the tradition going. So there are several bus stops that people will decorate in front of their camp, and vehicles will come around and ask if you need a ride. So that's another option as well. Although I would probably just still suggest stick out your thumb, just start walking in the direction you're going, hold your thumb out at any vehicle passing by, and they'll pick you up and generally ask, hey, where you going? Because I'll bring you right there. Because they know it's a long way to walk. All right. Don't forget there are car shows and a motorcycle show this year, Friday and Saturday at 3:30 p.m. I think both of them. And those are on the other side of Twin Hills. So on the map here, the route that you came in, right before you hit kind of the main batch of Wasteland stuff, there's a road that heads up and around the Twin Hills. So you can go over there if you want to be a part of either of the cruises. All right. So let's go to number 8, survival. Because camping in the desert is hard. Camping in the desert when there are no utilities is even harder. But there's a lot to talk about. So let's get started. All right. First up, water and electrolytes. I cannot understate how important it is to stay hydrated and keep your electrolytes up. So if you're not used to the desert, what happens out here, and this is even true in Los Angeles proper, is it's so dry that, yeah, you are sweating, but you're not getting sweaty. You are literally evaporating your sweat as fast as you can produce it. So you don't realize how much you're sweating. Not like it is out east or up in the north or the deep south. Your sweat goes away and it's really hard to keep track. I mean, not that we count our sweat anyway, but you know what I'm saying. Like when your shirt is dripping wet because it's so humid and hot out, you kind of get the idea of, oh yeah, I'm losing some water. You don't get that in the desert. So it's really important that you are drinking water as much as possible. And here's the thing, when you pee, you're peeing out your electrolytes. That happens. And so you need to replace those. So for me, I like to have 1 bottle of water, plain, 1 bottle of water with electrolytes, or and that can be like electrolyte powders. Gatorade is pretty good, although way too much sugar in there if you are a little bit more health conscious. So I'll tend to do like half batches of the electrolytes in everything and just always have it with me. Plus, when you have the electrolytes in your water, it actually encourages you to drink more of it because your body's like, that was good stuff, give me more. So it can actually be really helpful. The other thing I like to do a lot is mix juice 50-50 with water. So you take your juice and you water it down, and that way you get a little bit of flavor, but you're mostly drinking water overall. The other really important thing is to eat. You have to eat. The desert has this very strange effect on you where your body goes into this survival mode and says, I'm not hungry. I don't need to eat. And because you're at this festival where things are really exciting and happy and fun, and you're meeting people and you're busy, and you forget to take breaks, you kind of overlook the fact that you're hungry and your body just doesn't give you the same signals. The crazy thing is, when you take a bite or if you smell something, your body will go, oh, give me that. I've more often than not seen someone that's like, I haven't eaten yet today. I think I'm good. I'm fine to go till later. And I'm like, just come here, just have like a bite and see what happens. And they take that first bite and then boom, they're like, okay, I'm ready to eat. Give me more. So sometimes you just have to force yourself to take that first bite and your body will react and play along. All right. Camp cooking is allowed. Generally, fires are allowed, so you can do a fire. You can have a grill. If your grill's not themed, just make sure to keep it backstage in your camp, but totally allowed. Wasteland is moving slowly toward propane fuel as much as possible, so this even goes for like generators. I don't think I have generators in here, but yeah, for generators, if you have not switched to a propane or diesel generator yet, consider doing that the next time you upgrade, because gasoline generators are probably going out at some point. By the time you watch this, if it's not 2024 anymore, that might already be the case. So keep an eye on the website and make sure, because I know gasoline's super convenient, but honestly, the more I use propane on my dual fuel, the more I'm like, I only want to use propane because it's cleaner. There's no filters, less maintenance. You don't need to refill as much, because I've got 5 gallons of gasoline, but my generator only holds 2 gallons. So I have to refill it 2.5 times to use that 5. Meanwhile, a 20-pound propane has a good 4 gallons of fuel in it. You will use a little bit more, so bring more propane than you need. And again, California City does have the hookup for propane. There's a couple exchanges, although I would recommend going to the Ace in California City, because they do have propane by the gallon, so you can fill your own tanks with just how much you need. You always get a little bit more with that rather than the exchanges, because they underfill the exchanges. Anyway, that's my propane rant. All right. Campfires are allowed, but you should keep in mind that if it gets windy or dusty, you're not going to want to be open flame cooking. It's not as efficient, and there have been windstorms in the past and entire days where they've had to say no fires. It's just too windy. So I would definitely recommend having a different way to burn. And of course, if you bring like a little Coleman stove or something like that, you're going to be more likely able to cook. Don't burn anything but local firewood. If you're coming to California from somewhere else, don't buy firewood ahead of time. California is protective of the bug and plant life. They don't want invasive species coming into the state, so they will actually stop you and check, are you bringing any fruits and vegetables? Are you bringing any plants? And are you bringing any firewood? Because they don't want the bugs from other places coming here. There's just a lot of invasive species around the world, and they're trying to keep on top of that. All right, so that's like cooking and fires. Let's talk about shade. You want shade. You need shade. In the early years, people would just bring like a tent to set up and sleep in that, and it's fine. You can do it, but you're going to get woken up early. You're going to find yourself in an oven because the sun hits, there's no shade, so the sun hits right at sunrise. And if you have not picked a shady spot behind like someone's RV or a much larger tent or a structure, you are going to get hit with that sun, and it's going to wake you up, and you're going to just wake up a little sweaty and miserable. What a lot of people will do is they'll have their tent, and then they'll have another structure above it that is more of a shade structure. And this is where a lot of people will try to get away with the easy ups. But again, I don't trust the easy ups. So consider making like a monkey hut or using some PVC piping, PVC or metal piping. There's lots of ways to do it. I am not going to go through a full description of how, but consider putting extra shade over your tent, okay? Along with that, temperature swings are real in the desert. It can swing easily 30, 40 degrees a day. And sometimes you don't notice this in the real world, but, the night is colder than the day. So when Wasteland is about 100 degrees during the day, you'll get 70-degree nights, which are very nice, very comfortable. When it only gets up to the 70s during the day, which has happened, it can drop into the 30s and 40s really easily that night. So it can be very, very cold. So I would suggest bringing 2 variations of your costume minimum, one for the day when you want to stay a little bit cool, where you want to be a little bit lighter on your feet. And then at night, have like a giant overcoat you can throw on. And also, something to think about is you can have like thermal underwear or sweatpants or sweatshirts that are under your costume that can't be seen, and it's totally fine. So you don't need to waste out everything. I literally have like thin pajama pants, some sweatpants, and then some thermal tops that are not necessarily themed, but can easily hide underneath my costume for when it gets really cold at night, because it does. And sometimes that last walk of the night is just miserable. All right, so think about that. Absolutely consider some kind of face covering if it gets dusty, or if you are still a little bit sensitive to like COVID practices, wearing a mask is no problem at all. Feel free to do it. But yeah, you'll definitely want some kind of a face covering, even if it's just cloth or like a shamag for if it gets windy and dusty. You just don't want to be breathing that in. It'll mess with your voice, your lungs, and of course valley fever is out there. I'm going to talk a little bit more about wildlife later, but alert security if you see any wildlife that's dangerous, like a rattlesnake or a fox or a coyote or something like that. We do have some handlers that can deal with those things. Don't try to handle it yourself. Don't be afraid to check your shoes for spiders and scorpions in the morning. This is a habitat for a few different scorpions and several different quite poisonous spiders that do like to find snuggly, dark, warm spaces to camp in. So if you leave your shoes, especially outside your tent, give them a little shake in the morning. All right. All right, let's skip to what to carry with you. When I talk about the bars, we always talk about carry a cup. You 100% want and need a reusable cup, like a metal carabiner cup or like a reusable coffee cup in theme as part of your costume. Bring it with you, because if you hit up the Atomic Cafe or if you're friends with any of the tribes that have bars, they are not going to have cups for you. Although Schofield's Drifters, shout out to you guys. They actually bring a bunch of like old soup cans that they use as their, what do they call it? Like poor man's cup or their hobo cup or whatever it is, and they'll have a handful of those. But do not expect that from anybody, because the general expectation is that you've got your own cup and all the tribes have to do is just fill it up for you. All right, carry some old world money with you in case you want to hit up Bartertown or purchase anything from any of the official vendors. I like to keep a pocket full of gifts or barterables, whether that's your custom caps or some fun little artsy things or costume pieces that don't work for you anymore. Carry them in a pocket or on your person so that you have something ready to barter, because you never know when a good barter opportunity is going to come up. Of course, you're going to need your water bottle and electrolyte packets. Even if you get someone hooks you up with a refill in this camp, you might still need some electrolytes to throw in there. And I'm not kidding when we talk about you need your water and your electrolytes. You need it. And by the way, I didn't mention this earlier, but the general rule is you need 2 gallons per person per day. One of those gallons is just for drinking. One of them is for washing up, whether it's your body, your clothes, not that you need to wash your clothes, you might, I don't know, or doing dishes and that kind of thing. So you want no less than 2 gallons a day. I actually tend to drink more than a gallon myself. So yeah, that's a lot. And if you do the math, right? Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday is still a day because we're tearing down. So each person needs 10 gallons of water just for the actual event. And if you're there earlier, do the math again, you're gonna need even more, okay? You need a hat or a sunbrella. Again, make sure they're themed. I have a nice little boonie hat, the kind with the wide brim. There's a lot of cowboy hats because they are honestly functional in the wastes, but you'll want at least something to help cover up your head a little bit. And consider bringing walkie-talkies. Now, don't bring the professional police walkies or even the ones that professional film crews use. Use the cheaper walkie-talkies so that you're not overstepping on any of the frequencies. But it's a great way to communicate. Again, cell phones don't work out there. You might be able to get a text through, but who knows when or where it's going to happen. So yeah, consider bringing some walkie-talkies for you and your loved ones. Also, sometimes it just takes letting go, letting the waste grab you, and finding new friends. Who cares about your old friends? No, I'm just kidding. But don't be afraid to let your people go a little bit, because it's a beautiful place and everyone will find different things that they like. So don't worry too much about sticking with your crew. Sometimes the worst times I'm having is when I'm trying to stick with a group that's bigger than 2 or 3 people, because everybody's getting pulled in different directions and you're like, oh, we're just waiting for this person. Oh, now we're waiting for this person. Oh, that person walked away. Oh, that person's at the porta potties. And so sometimes, it's okay to be like, hey, group, I'm going to go off on my own for a little bit, or me and this person are going to go off for a little bit, and it's going to be just us, and we'll see you guys next time around in the city. Okay? And I'm caught back up. All right, that's all the stuff I missed. We're going to go back to me somewhere in the desert. And if you want to know why I was shooting there, I had more travel problems, but you'll have to ask me in person or hear about it a different way. I'll probably be podcasting about it at some point. Actually, honestly, I will be. So you'll get to hear that story. It's always an adventure getting to Wasteland, and that is all.
So supplies during the event. There are food vendors. I think there's 4 or 5, maybe more on the list. You'll find them all toward the city. I think they're on Main Street for 2024, but they've moved around a little bit over the years. Sometimes they're on the street right in front of the wall. But basically, there have been food vendors every year, and the great thing is they provide awesome food overall, and they don't really price gouge, which I've been very impressed with. They've been very fair with their pricing. It's not like, the cheapest place in the world, but it's also not, you're not going to be spending like $30 on a one-person meal like you would at some festivals. So they've been very fair with things, and honestly, they're making the food out there, and it's amazing what these tribes do on site. Bring your own ice. I believe that Dinky Dive, which is one of the vendors, will have ice on site. They are generally the only one. And I don't know what the price is, but it's very fair, considering they have ice in the middle of the desert. Also, California City is only 15 or 20 minutes away. You'll find gas stations, hardware stores, dollar stores, which have some groceries, restaurants, and there are hotels there for showers and some recovery. Some people will spend the night every night in a hotel if they prefer to wasteland that way, which is totally fine. And sometimes tribes will get a hotel room for a day and then trade out. They'll all take take turns showers and just getting a few minutes in the air conditioning, which is a great idea. And then if you need a full-size grocery store, like if you need all of the things that the dollar stores don't have, you can drive over to Mojave. I forget the name of the store, but there is a full-size store there, and that's, I don't know, half hour away, give or take, maybe a little bit more. It's actually really convenient considering we're in the middle of nowhere how easy it is to find some supplies. If you don't get a hotel room, there are showers available at Borax Bills, but you have to buy coins, they got tokens ahead of time. So stop in there on your way into Wasteland because I don't believe they're open on the weekends. So you cannot buy tokens even if you want to shower on the weekend. I haven't done it myself, so maybe someone else can chime in about that. Oh, and the last thing you need to know, cell phones do not work there. I mentioned this earlier. There's a good signal, but there's not bandwidth. Because there is a tower nearby, so you have good signal, but there's maybe a few hundred people that use that tower for the rest of the year, but once Wastelanders get there, we multiply that by, 2,000%? That's not right. 200%? 20%? 200%. No, 2,000%. 20 times as many people are there suddenly for Wasteland, and they're all trying to upload their pictures and text their loved ones and make phone calls. So don't expect your cell phone to be much help once you're out there. There have been some tribes that bring satellite Wi-Fi, and I believe even a couple of the food vendors do, and they will offer Wi-Fi to their customers, which I think is a fantastic service. And then of course there are some Wastelanders that offer Wi-Fi as well. So just be friendly and you might get the hookup of a password or two. Basically, don't expect there to be Wi-Fi or cell signal. Communicating with your friends and family that are on site is a little bit tough, but pro tip, if you climb the the twin hills that are just west of the event, you can usually get a signal up there. And then of course, texts and some phone calls will go through late at night or really early in the morning before everyone's awake. All right, so we're on 9-ish, number 9. The Wasteland Salute and fuck yous and flip-offs. So this is the Wasteland Salute. It's a W formed with 2 birds. And then of course, just regular old fuck yous. And people will say fuck you, and people will say really mean-sounding things to each other, but ultimately it's said in love. Fuck you has become a bit of the good morning, good night. It's kind of our aloha, if that makes sense. So don't get too offended if someone flips you off and yells fuck you. It's generally said with love. generally. All right, let's skip right to number 10. I mentioned Wasteland Radio, 88.3 FM. They have an awesome playlist. You can play them from your car radio, or if you get a camper like I do, you can play it through the camper radio. It plays 24 hours a day during Wasteland. They've got awesome shows during the day that will let you know what kind of events are happening. They've got interviews with the bands that are going to be playing that night. They've got the Fallout Radio Hour every morning, which is my favorite. And then all during the afternoon and through the night, they play like hard rock and metal and very wastelandy sounds. So really cool stuff. It's actually been really helpful for me to hear, like while I'm getting ready in the morning. I forget exactly what time. I want to say 10 a.m.-ish. But they'll actually do like, here's a rundown of all the things that are happening today. And they'll do not only official things, but the unofficial like tribe run stuff. So it's really fun to hear that and just get reminded what's happening every day. Plus they just put on a hell of a show. And if you don't know, that's WCC. They are Wasteland Communication Corporation, not the Corps, Corporation. They do the Wastelander newspaper, which you can buy for $1 or $2. I think it's $1 or $2. They do the post office, so you can run mail. I actually am sending a lot of my patrons a bunch of mail through the WCC this year. And of course they do the radio station and ham radio, which was their original communication all the way back in like 2011. So they do a lot of stuff. Go in, say hi to them. They're super friendly. And if you ask really nice, you might get a tour of the radio station, which is pretty fucking cool. All right, enough of that. Let's talk about number 11. Tribe missions. So a lot of the tribes starting almost a decade ago started doing these tribe missions, which is basically like side missions from video games. And word to the wise, we originally tried to call it side missions, but tribe missions won out, which is fine. Because we didn't want you to think that there was like a main mission that you were supposed to do. So tribe missions. Here's a symbol that means this tribe or this camp or this person has a mission for you. If you follow that in and say, hey, I'm looking for work, or what kind of missions do you have, you might get sent on something amazing. You might get sent on something really simple, or you might just have to like pass a test of some kind. And generally, if you do these things, there are prizes to be won. For instance, with the Dukes of the Nuke, our main quest is a gun running mission, so we'll send you off to some other tribe with either with guns or to retrieve guns for us. And when you come back, you'll get rewarded with a Duke's cap. If you do several of these, there might be some weapons available for you. We have been trying to ensure that anyone who is, like say it's your first year and you don't have a weapon yet, we want everyone to be armed. We're gun runners, we're mercenaries, so we want you all to be armed. So come to the Dukes of the Nuke, we'll send you on some missions and you can earn a weapon. Also, here's another symbol for you. This is a mission item. It may be a stealable item, it may not. This symbol has changed a little bit. It used to be just for the relics, which were stealable items that tribe within tribe would steal from each other. Now it's more of just a quest item symbol. So generally, if you don't know why that quest item is marked, then you probably should just leave it alone. That's for people that are already on some kind of mission. Like a tribe mission might have you go and steal something. For instance, the Dukes of the Nuke and the Love Bombs both lay claims to these atomic soda bombs this year. If you go to one of us, we will send you on a mission with some intel about where to find them. It's going to be in one of the other camps. And if you find it, you'll actually see the symbol right on the soda bomb, and along with some rules and instructions. So a nice, easy game to play. Return those to either the Love Bombs or the Dukes of the Nuke, and we will have prizes for you. It might start off as a nice little sticker, but again, if you keep going, there will be better prizes. We'll come up with some stuff. I don't know what we're gonna give away. We'll figure it out. We always do. All right, so let's talk about number 12. 1, 2, we'll do it this way. LARPing, live action role play for those that are not in that world. So Wasteland Weekend is not a LARP. Wasteland Weekend is also not a LARP. The event is not based in a LARP game, but there is LARPing elements that you can participate in or not. It's totally up to you. You can LARP if you want, but you can just be yourself in a costume the whole time. And what I find a lot of Wastelanders do is they'll jump into a character. Hey, I'm Makeshift and I'm here to do a thing. And then we'll do the thing. Well, get out of here, Makeshift. We don't want that kind of energy around because you're always so negative. And then they'll kick me out, and then I'll turn right back around and say, hey guys, that was fun. Thanks for playing. By the way, later on I'm doing this thing, you should come hang out. So you can jump into character and jump out. There are a certain number of Wastelanders that are in character the whole time, and because that's what's fun for them. And there are certain Wastelanders that will never jump in character, and that's also totally fine. There are LARP elements to be had. For instance, the Outpost 364, Rabbit Asylum, Schofield's Drifters, these guys LARP throughout. They actually set up big skits. They're generally found with a crowd running around, pointing guns at each other, kidnapping people, holding people for ransom, and then they'll end up making some kind of a deal by the end of the event. Those are super fun. They love to play those games, which I think is great, and I love watching them. But yeah, you don't have to participate. But what you can do is when you see some of this happening, you can just jump in there and, throw your gun up in the air and just get excited. And when someone says something loud, you agree with them, So anyway, there's some LARP Lite available for you. We are now halfway through. I think it's a good time to talk about the vendors at Wasteland Weekend. Wasteland Weekend is one of the biggest and best collections of post-apocalyptic vendors you will find in the world. There's, I don't even know, 20 some odd vendors, and then even more kind of scattered throughout, and a ton of barter tables too. You'll find handmade costumes, accessories, hats, gifts, arts, and so much more right in Bartertown. The funny thing about it is it's reversed. So in Bartertown, the street that's right off of Main Street in Wasteland, it's all cash sales. They'll have some barter items, and you might be able to haggle a barter out of someone, but for the most part, those vendors are looking for cash sales. Now, when you find other tables throughout Wasteland, they tend to be barter only because they are not vendors, and so they don't deal with cash, they just deal with barter because it's fun for them. So anyway, I know it's a little bit weird that Bartertown is cash and the other tables are barter, but anyway, doesn't matter. You will find a very limited number of other cash vendors throughout the event, like Attack, the band. They have a merch booth in their camp, so if you want to support Wasteland's unofficial house band, you can by buying some of their merch. They've got really cool stuff. I got a bunch of their t-shirts. They got their albums up there. And then also, self-plug, you can help support the Apocalypse Post and my tribe, the Dukes of the Nuke, by stopping in our camp. The Apocalypse Post will have our outpost up and running with a bunch of merch. We've got patches, pins, hats, t-shirts. I've got the 2023 event maps and a bunch of other stuff. And the Dukes of the Nuke also, a bunch of stuff to sell. Plus we're gonna have our daily barter bazaar inside our VIP tent. Well, it's not really a VIP tent, but it's a tent. If you want to support either one, that's kind of the way that we fundraise for the channel and the camp, and it really helps out. So please stop on in. We are off Main Street toward the stage from the main gates, and on the left. You can't miss us because we're loud and stupid. So anyway, with the vendors, which pretty much all vendors there bring cash because they may or may not be able to take digital forms of payment. I know a couple of them that have Wi-Fi may be able to take like Venmo or PayPal or credit cards. Don't count on it. Count on bringing some extra cash if you want to buy some stuff. I know this year I'm definitely bringing some cash to go through Bartertown because I need some new costume pieces because I am a crappy costumer. I know that's my weak spot. I've been doing this 15 years almost, and it's still my weak spot. So it's really fun that I can go and patronize some of the really, really great post-apocalypse costume makers. And plus, you can't find this stuff in stores. Where else are you gonna find it? Except right at Wasteland Weekend, or like, maybe a post-apocalypse concert out in the foyer where you're not hanging out anyway because the show's so rad. But yeah, bring some cash because there's lots of cool stuff. And just one more side note on that. If you show up with no costume because, your friends failed you and they invited you to this really cool thing out in the desert, but they didn't tell you, you need a costume, you can honestly outfit an entire costume by going through Bartertown for probably under $100. And that is probably high, especially since a lot of items are barterable and really cheap. But for $50 or $100, you could have a full costume. We're talking boots, we're talking goggles, we're talking hat, shirt, pants. I don't think you'll find socks. Someone might have socks, but there's lots of cool stuff. So if you show up, if you haven't prepared, just go to Bartertown first. They'll be open all day, every day, pretty much. And yeah, you can't go wrong. All right, quick sip of water because it's hot out here and I need to hydrate. Also, that sun's going down. I gotta get this done. All right, this is always the toughest part to talk about, but let's talk about etiquette real quick. First off, consider camps to have imaginary boundaries. Just don't go cutting through them. Don't wander in people's camps without being invited. A lot of the tribes' camps will be open invite, and you'll know it pretty readily because they'll be lit, there'll be people inside. There won't be a boundary at the street. Those are pretty much safe to walk into, but people's like private camps out in Tent City generally don't just walk up into a camp without at least getting the visual eye line and come on in. Sometimes all you got to do is just kind of stand there for a second and say, hey guys, what you doing? And they'll be like, oh, we're having a fire, come hang out, have a drink. And then also try not to cut through people's camps. I know it's a little bit tough because it's a big open desert space, but it always feels a little bit weird when people just cut straight through your camp. Especially for a lot of our city tribes, we try to like create a boundary so that people don't do it. Just do your best to stick to the roads whenever possible. Don't cut through unless it's like a big open space. Anyway, enough of that. Headlamps. The moon will be full this year. It generally is for Wasteland. I don't know how that works out. Even on a new moon year, there's so much light in the city, you don't need headlamps. You might need one on you to like use the porta potties, and you might need one to find your camp late at night. But generally, you're not gonna need one in the city. And if you do wear one, make sure you're not pointing it in people's faces, point it straight down. A lot of them, you can just kind of flip them down so that they show the ground in front of you rather than shining it in people's faces, because you'll literally blind people and they won't be able to have a very good conversation with you. Pack in, pack out. This is a pack in, pack out event. So that means you're bringing everything you need and you're taking everything with you, and that includes trash. Now, there is a limited resource of Trash for Cash, which on your exit on Sunday morning, someone will be manning the garbage bin, and they will take your garbage for $5 a bag. It has to fit in a regular garbage bag. You can't just grab, a tarp and get that for $5. So that is a service that Wasteland has been doing, and it's kind of worked out pretty well. Don't abuse the system, and don't just throw stuff in there when no one's looking. Make sure that you have permission to throw stuff in there. But I would just try your best to, first off, get rid of all your garbage before you go. Take stuff out of its packages. Buy stuff that, like if it comes in a box, that box will squish. Or you could use a cardboard box to light your fire at night. Don't bring a lot of glass bottles if you can avoid them, because those don't squish and they do break, and we don't want a lot of glass out in the desert. But like cans will squash, plastic bottles will squash, and you can just take those back and recycle them at home. So stuff to think about. But yeah, don't leave your garbage behind. No one wants to deal with it, and honestly, it's the volunteers that end up having to deal with it. All right, let's talk about fires. You are allowed generally to have a campfire in your camp. If the wind picks up, they may have everyone turn their fires off because, most things are flammable. And if things catch on fire in Wasteland, it would be very bad. So make sure that you have a contained fire, just no open pits. Don't dig a big old fire pit. You can scrape a little bit off the top surface just to get yourself an inch, but don't dig holes. And something to think about, don't throw your garbage in your fire. I know I just mentioned burning like cardboard, but I'm talking about like plastics and metals and gross things, because it adds way too much smoke to the atmosphere. I don't like it. This year, I'm actually bringing my first smokeless fire pit, which these things are fantastic. If you haven't discovered these yet, they're amazing. I found this one on Amazon that's already rust colored. I'm bringing it, and it cuts down on the smoke like 80 to 90%, which just makes for a much better atmosphere for everybody. Also, if you have like tiki torch type lights, you know what I mean, just vertical lights. Also, tiki torches don't really fit the theme, so don't use them. But you know what I mean, like a stake that has an oil lamp on it or something. Those oil lamps put out so much damn smoke, they can literally choke you as you walk by them. So consider not doing that. Think about something battery powered, solar powered, or a cleaner burning fuel. And that's just my personal recommendations, because some years at Wasteland, if the wind isn't happening, that all that smoke just sits and settles like in the valley, and it just won't leave. We actually had years where you could see the smoke in the air because just enough fires were up. And I get it. It's Wasteland. It's the post-apocalypse. There should be smoke. But I don't like waking up in the morning not being able to speak. And I'm doing 3 shows this year, so I need to keep my voice. So you can all help by having cleaner burning fires. All right, another etiquette thing. Don't talk politics, don't talk religion. I'm gonna keep this really short. We're in the post-apocalypse, we're in a fictional world. We don't wanna talk about modern day politics or religion. For one, it just spoils the atmosphere, and for two, it just creates animosity that doesn't need to be there. So avoid it if possible. Obviously no one's asking you to not observe your own religious things privately in your camp. So if you need to pray to a sun god early in the morning, you're free to do that. I know that there's been a Christian group that meets on Sunday mornings for years, I think I haven't heard about them recently, but there is stuff like that happens privately in your own camp, but just don't bring up modern day stuff, especially in election cycle year. We just don't want to hear it. Another thing to think about on the topic of no politics and no religion, kind of building off of that, Wasteland is a very accepting and forward-thinking crowd. You'll see spectrums of race, religion, sex, gender, orientations, body types, abilities, nudity, and interests. And Wasteland works very hard to make it a safe place for all to enjoy and feel comfortable and feel safe. We believe, and this comes straight from the website, we believe everyone has the right and responsibility to treat others and be treated with respect. And if you can't do that, Wasteland Weekend probably isn't for you. And along with that, don't bring any hate symbols. You know what they all are. I'm not gonna show them to you. And such behavior is gonna get you removed from the event really fast. So a lot of people do like to hand out stickers. Don't put any stickers or damage things or like spray paint things that aren't yours. Make sure you have permission to manipulate, steal, stick, decorate, anything from the owner of those things. All right. And one of the things with stickers is if you do hand stickers out, you are responsible for wherever they get stuck. So if you hand out a sticker and it ends up on someone's car and damages the paint, you as the sticker hander outer are ultimately responsible for that sticker. So make sure that when you hand out stickers, you tell people only put them on your own things. And if you get handed a sticker, don't just put it anywhere. Put it on your stuff or take it home. All right. Photography. You are allowed to take photography for your personal use. No commercial use is allowed. So, you can't just go take a bunch of pictures and video of Wasteland Weekend and use it to promote your event or your movie or your products or whatever else. So yeah, keep that in mind. Also, video needs permission ahead of time. So make sure you're talking to Wasteland Weekend if you want to shoot for anything bigger, like a documentary or something like that. Generally, if you're shooting video on your cell phone, they treat that like photography. So you're welcome to do that. Again, personal use. Make sure you get consent if you are shooting anyone that happens to be nude or more exposed than what would normally be considered normal in the public. So yeah, make sure you're getting consent if anyone is exposing body parts that you normally would not see. And generally, this is something to keep in mind, is there's a ton of video and photography happening all the time. So if you're not interested in being on tape, make sure you're talking to the photographers and just be like, hey, I prefer you don't take photos of me. Same thing with video. But ultimately, it's a private event, and the event does have the ability to shoot video of participants. So if you don't want to be recognized, consider wearing at least a partial mask or something that obscures your look. Just a thought. Also, finally, no live streaming video. You won't be able to, there's not enough connection, but just no live streaming. All right, so let's talk about number 15, contests and public participation. Keep an eye on Facebook pages and Discord. There's a Wasteland Weekend page on Discord for tribe events. There's also going to be the official and unofficial events boards on DXC's wall, which is on Main Street, just inside the city. And there's also going to be a printable version on the website for official events, and there's a tribe events, or an unofficial events, as it used to be called, that is shared on Facebook. So make sure to print that the day you leave so you get the most updated version, because people will probably keep adding things right up until they leave for Wasteland. Events like the swimsuit contest, costume contest, Thunderdome, a lot of tribe things are preset ahead of time and you have to sign up ahead of time. Like for instance, for Thunderdome, there is a liability stuff that you have to sign off in case you hurt yourself. It's not their fault, it's yours. You got in the Thunderdome. So, consider thinking about what kind of events you want to participate in ahead of time. Of course, there's going to be tons of events that you can just sign up for or just show up to at Wasteland as well. So just because you forget to sign up for stuff doesn't mean you're shit out of luck. There's still a ton of things you can do on site. We already said check out the DXC info wall, so there you go. Number 16. Gifting and bartering. I like to say gifting good, bartering better, and I'm adding this one, stealing really bad. Gifting things is very common in Wasteland. People hand out their bottle caps, playing cards, patches, all sorts of stuff. People will gift each other with handmade things, which I think is absolutely lovely. I've been getting more and more gifts every year, which has been great. I feel really bad because I don't always have a barter available, but yeah, that brings me to number 2. Bartering is better. Anytime you can exchange something for something else, that's always great. It's just really good for the culture and the economy of Wasteland, the barter economy. Of course, you should never feel obligated to barter. If someone is trying to push you into like, hey, I really like your jacket, I would like it. You don't have to give away your jacket, only if you think it's a good deal. And most times when it comes to bartering, you are gonna lose. You'll have to give something really good away to get something smaller just in order to help the barter go through. And again, stealing really bad. Some people in the past have taken on like thieves or pirates or a ninja. I mean, it's all costumes that shouldn't be used anyway, but part of their character is that they steal things, and that is never okay. It's never okay to steal things. Even stealable items should be used only in the context of the game that they're being played in, and should always be returned to the tribe at the end of the event anyway, unless for some reason they say you can keep that now. But you have to get explicit permission to keep things. But yeah, just don't go around stealing things, including art, including posters that might be hung up on the wall. All that stuff gets collected by the people that put them up so that we can use them again, or just to bring home. They are not for you to take and keep. So please don't steal the posters and stuff. You may not sell anything at the event for real world money, so bartering becomes even more important. This all comes down to like tax codes and business licenses and that whole thing, so nothing can be exchanged for money, including you may not tip your body shop beauticians or bartenders with any real world money. So bring like some small barterable items that you can throw in tip jars, because it makes it super fun. When I performed last year, I put out a tip jar just kind of for fun, like just kind of for busking, and people put in all sorts of stuff, which was super cool. One guy even drew me as I looked on stage and put the drawing in the tip jar. That was super cool. So yeah, barter for tips, or tips for barter. Barter for tips, yeah. Speaking of which, now that we're on currency, let's talk about caps and currency. So there's 3 types of bottle caps you'll see in the Wasteland. Some of them are just the junk bottle caps that people pull off their beer bottles and soda bottles. Those generally are not part of the game, but they can be used for decoration or collectibles. Like a jar of caps looks really cool, and you don't need them to be special, right? You can pin them to your costume and they look fine. But yeah, those generally don't have any real value. Some people have asked like, well, I got this jar of caps, what can I do with it? Not a whole lot. But you're free to barter, because when it comes down to it, bartering is whatever value you assign to these currencies. The second type of cap is going to be the Last Chance Casino cap, or other like tribe caps, if any of them are doing this kind of thing. But the Last Chance Casino, for instance, has their orange stamped caps that they use for all the gambling tables. You'll earn those by going up to their bartender and either telling them a joke, doing a dance, doing something for barter to get the caps. But those are very specific to Last Chance Casino, although you will see them traded and sold throughout Wasteland as well. And then the last thing is custom caps that people print just to hand out. They become like collector's items, kind of like baseball cards, where I'll end up with a good 50 or 60 of these things by the end of the event that people have just handed me, and it's super cool, super fun. But yeah, those are generally for collecting. You can trade them, but I haven't seen a huge, like, it's not like baseball card trading in that sense, but people do trade them, especially like, here's my cap and give me yours. All right. There's also some tribes that have their own currencies, like the Skullduggers have the Baron Bucks or the Coyote Canyon dollars, and there's tons of other currencies being used. Again, they only count, they're only worth the value that you assign to them as the person receiving them or giving them. So it's all for fun, right? So you could say, hey, I've got these Baron Bucks, how much are they worth? And someone could say, well, here, nothing. And another tribe might be, well, here, they're worth a lot, how much you got? And then Children of Asir, as well as some other tribes over the years, have tried to do like a bank exchange. Children of Asir, I think they did it last year, they're gonna do it again, but it is an actual currency exchange, kind of like a bank. And so that is one way that you can trade in one currency for another, and they'll set their own rates on how they want to trade those currencies, which is kind of fun. All right, let's go to number 18, Atomic Cafe and the Tribe Bars, which are 2 very different systems. First off, Atomic Cafe will serve drinks to all attendees 18 plus, alcoholic drinks only to 21 plus, and those will be dictated by your armbands. Wristbands? Wristbands. So if you're 18 plus, you can still go to Atomic Cafe. You'll probably just get a soda or a juice or something like that. But for everyone else, you can get mixed drinks there. The Atomic Cafe does work with donations. If you would like to donate a bottle of liquor or a mixer like a soda or a juice, make sure it's in a new, unopened bottle. No homemade stuff whatsoever. It has to be closed and sealed. And if you are gonna do mixers, make sure that they are shelf stable. They can't need to be refrigerated. We just don't have the fridge space at Wasteland. So things like 2 liters of soda, ginger ale is very popular, Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite. And then juices, shelf-stable stuff, like either in a can or in a bottle, are also super popular. So if you'd like to, you can donate any of the above to the info tire, which is at Command Center just inside the main gates. Whew, a lot of information to get out here. Also, some of the tribe bars will take donations as well, but that's handled on more of a personal basis, okay? So tribes may have bars, and actually there's been quite a few. A lot of tribes do like to open up a bar to serve to their friends and family, and people that are very, very friendly. So one thing you can do is go to the tribes during the day, say hi, introduce yourself. They may invite you to come get a drink later as their new friend. They may give you a token or a necklace or a dog tag or a wristband that says, hey, this is a friend of this tribe and can be served. The trick to getting lots of drinks at Wasteland is to make a lot of friends, is all I'm saying. Officially, unofficially, unofficially. Keep in mind, the tribe bars don't have to serve you. They're doing this out of the kindness of their own hearts. So if you're a dick, you probably won't get drinks. And it's at their discretion whether you are servable anyway. Make sure you bring a cup. This goes for all the bars, including Atomic Cafe. They don't have cups for you. We don't have cups for you. You need to bring your own cup. A cup on a carabiner hooked up to your belt is a great way to do that. But also just having a cup in your pocket is always super helpful, and also helps to reduce garbage, which is great. Good enough. We're wrapping that one up. Number 19. We're going to call this one Safety Third. I've got 3 things to talk about. First off, Wasteland Security is on site. We have a mix of paid security professionals as well as security volunteers that are a little bit more in the observe and report kind of world. There is going to be a police, fireman, and medic presence at Wasteland. If you have an issue, you can always go to security to make a report. Same thing with medical. If you have any needs for medical, they handle a lot of like cuts, scrapes, bruises, burns, that kind of thing. You can always go to medical and they will do their best. Don't use them for like a regular doctor. Like if you go in there and you say, hey, my back's been sore for 6 months, they can't help you. But what they can help you with is, ooh, I just got this cut because I brought some rusty metal and I need this cleaned, and they'll put a Band-Aid on it. They're not gonna stitch you, but they'll put a Band-Aid on it. So there's a limit to what they can do. They also handle like heat exhaustion, that kind of thing. If you're not feeling so hot, go visit medical. They'll give you a cooler, not cold place to hang out for a little bit, probably make you drink some water, maybe send you back to camp to eat some food. But it's a great first stop, and a lot of security issues should still start with medical, and the people who need to know what I'm explaining there will probably already know what I mean there. Okay, start at medical. The third thing on my list here is leave the wildlife alone. You will see you won't see, hopefully. There may be rattlesnakes, scorpions, fire ants, birds, coyotes, foxes, all sorts of stuff that live in the desert. This is their home. We try not to bother them. If you happen to see something and it's in the general vicinity of the event, just see if you can get a hold of someone from the event or security, and they will have a handler come remove that. This is also a protected area habitat of the desert tortoise, which is endangered. You may not touch it, period. Don't touch the tortoises. Very bad federal offense level stuff. But all in all, leave the wildlife alone, whether it's a lizard or anything. It's best just to make our presence there go unnoticed as much as possible. And for the most part, once the event starts, they all leave the area anyway, because it's very loud and rambunctious. All right? But I did label this Safety Third because safety is, of course, your own responsibility, to yourself first, and then to your friends and family second, and then to like the standards of safety. This is all like Mike Rowe's thing. But yeah, what is it? Corporate safety is third, right? Because they'll always put profits ahead. And I'm not trying to say that that's what Wasteland is. I'm just saying you need to put your own safety first, and then put your friends and family second, and then worry about like official safety stuff third. So your personal safety should be better than the standards of whatever. You guys know what I'm talking about. Be safe, don't be stupid. Protect yourself, make sure you're drinking water, eating food, and don't do anything stupid. And if you haven't had all your shots, maybe don't go touching the rusty stuff, because it's real rust. And there might be viruses on it. Also, in the same note, the desert flu, what is it called? The desert fever is the thing. So if it gets really dusty and you start breathing in a lot of the dust, there are spores of fungus in the dirt So like simple stuff like that, like just putting on a mask or wrapping a shirt around your face can actually help, that kind of stuff. I'm gonna put a link below for Mojave Muse's survival guide. She's got a whole bunch of information about that kind of stuff. That is more specific to the Mojave Desert than to the event as a whole, but a lot of good information in there that you can check out. All right, so we are almost done. This time I did not lose battery power to my microphone. So let's just wrap it up and talk about how to have a good time. Wasteland Weekend is one of the most amazing, open-minded, incredible, like off-world in a weird way, places where you can explore a whole different version of yourself and your friends and create a new you and just see things a little bit differently. So ultimately I want to tell you, you can be who you are or who you would be, which actually is a line from my original We Are Wasteland. And it's true, you can feel free to be who you are there without having to hold back so much, as long as the who you are is a good person. If the who you are is a bad person, maybe don't let that out. But you know what I'm saying. You can explore things a little bit and have some fun. And people are surprisingly friendly at Wasteland, so don't be shy. You can always start a conversation with, hey, show me some of your art, show me your, what's going on with your costume, how'd you do that, I love your camp, all that kind of stuff. People are super friendly and it's a lot of fun to just walk around and meet new people. You can get involved as much as you want, whether it's forming a tribe, creating an event, becoming a volunteer, putting on a show, writing music, or putting on a YouTube channel. You can get involved to your comfort level, and I definitely suggest go slow, because every year I overbook myself, and I like the pressure. That's really what it is. Again, get sleep, eat, drink, and hide in the shade during the day, especially if you need to. It can be very hot during the day. It can take a lot out of you, so a lot of people take that opportunity to stay in the shade, just hang out, take things a little bit easier. And I would definitely suggest that. And finally, feel free to ask for help if you need it, whether it's from your own campmates or other Wastelanders. A lot of tribes will help each other out with whatever they need, whether it's, do you have some extra water bottles, or do you have a tool, or hey, I'm not feeling so good, can someone take me to medical? People are generally very gracious. Along with all of that, make sure you're protecting yourself. Don't do stupid things. Real world policies still apply. Don't walk off in the dark with strangers, and just be smart and keep an eye on your people. All right, I got to wrap this up because my battery's about to die, but I'm going to drop a bunch of links in the comments, including Mojave Muse's survival guide. And of course, you can find all the full official rules and information at wastelandweekend.com. It won't have some of the insider stuff that I shared with you today, but it will have all the stuff that you will need to know in order to have a good Wasteland. Including like maps to the event and schedules and that whole deal. All right. Also check out postapocevents.com. They'll have all the information on every other, including Wasteland Weekend, post-apocalypse event around the globe. And many of them follow the same principles and guidelines as Wasteland Weekend, since a lot of them were inspired by Wasteland Weekend. But you can check out events like APOC's East, and Aftermath, which are both East Coast, one north, one south, and those will have a very different atmosphere than Wasteland, and it might be a little bit closer for you when you're talking about the commute, right? So yeah, post-apoc events, a lot of cool stuff to find on there, including stuff overseas, by the way. And then, of course, there's several Facebook groups that you should join. Wastelander Central is probably where most of the information comes out. Wasteland Basic is great training if it's your first year or if you're just trying to amp up your game. Wasteland Tribe Missions if you want to get more involved in some of the games. And I'll put a smattering of like the most popular, busiest Wasteland Facebook groups on there for you, okay? What did I miss? What clues have helped you at Wasteland? What's the 21st thing you need to know about Wasteland Weekend? Share it so that we can all get better at this together and we can all go on surviving another day. I'll see you guys really soon. I'm gonna drop this video pretty much now. And well, yeah, I'm gonna drop this week. So that's how close we are. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I am Makeshift. Come say hi to me in the wastes. It's been great. See you out there. 2024 and beyond. Happy wastelanding, and no matter what, stay alive. Okay, see you next time. Bye.